If you're a citizen developer and you're just starting, how do you think people should look for best tool for them? Do they need to use search bar, read through all description? Because now they have hundreds of tools. So how do you suggest to navigate and choose one for yourself?
Well, we can start with there are different categories for the tools. So we can add one or more categories for the tools that you are developing. So if you want to work with data, then well, you can get a category and you see FetchXML Builder and a few other tools for that. And then you can also look at tool library to see how you can rate this tool. And a lot of tools, they are 5.0 in their rates, but they got only 2 votes, which was the developer and her mom. So there are others that if they have 30 people who have said what they think about it, then we can really believe that. And also look for the documentation. We don't like to document things. That's just boring time that when we need to.
Yeah, documenting is for losers, right? Not for winners.
Yeah, but we need it also as well because I mean, if you want users for your tool, well, we have to explain here and there how to use it and what we actually can use with the tools. And I mean, when tools are developed over years and years, I mean, they get more and more features. How to find those?
People who run XrmToolBox, do you cherry pick? Do you have a filtering criteria? Like in AppSource, they have preferred solution. Do you have anything where you can put a mark, you as people who found it or people who are running it? Do you have anything as additional criteria for end users to understand what to use and what's recommended?
You mean for these tools within XrmToolBox? If you can just get a stamp that says it is a good one. I'm wishing for it because there are a bit over 300 tools out there. Not all are the best.
Hi Jonas, nice to see you. Welcome to the podcast. I think it was a while since you probably recorded something, or maybe I missed a lot of stuff, but I definitely saw you a few times this year and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I mean, I think we saw each other in Seattle and then in Slovenia.
Yeah, and I miss you on Cyprus because you've been to Cyprus on your own.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's there with my wife only.
We're going to have a couple of questions like Blitz, make a couple of hints what you do and what you don't do. So first one, Seattle or Stockholm?
I really like Seattle. I mean, since my memories from in Seattle, I like the times I've been there. But I mean, Stockholm, that's my home city. It's been my home city for my whole life, like 50 years. Oh, I'm so old. And I think I will stay here the rest of my life. So I love Stockholm. I like Seattle, and you heard the difference. Love is more than like.
Sounds like you were considering Seattle for a bit. I didn't expect you have such a strong opinion about Seattle.
Not really, but I like Seattle. Okay. I have to say that.
Especially if you work with Microsoft, you need to say that's the best city in the world. So second question, XrmToolBox, XRM Toolkit.
What is a XrM Toolkit? Well, I know what it is, but that's something that costs money. You have to pay to use it and you're locked in with those features in there and we can't compare these. They're two different things, which means I will never try the XrM Toolkit.
Automate or repeat the same routine again and again.
Of course you want to automate things, so I don't have to do the same things twice. I hate to do that. I like to do new things. I don't want to just repeat what I did last week or last year or so. Of course, automate everything that is the same thing. I mean, the computer can do it. I want to do it. I want to do new things.
So, more personal, skiing or snowboarding?
Oh, snowboarding. I tried that 35 years ago, and I tried it for like 15 minutes. Not my thing. I love skiing. I've being up there in the north of Sweden or in wherever I can ski. I like to have like 2 feet going forward instead of being on the side. That's just weird. It's like I want to stop what I want to run. What is snowboarder? That's not my thing.
If we have snowboarders who are watching it and they want to leave a comment, please feel free to come and give your wrong opinion.
There's no opinion. I have the fact.
Logic and patterns or abstract and art?
Abstract and art. I like the feeling of that. But when we're talking about the work, I like the logic. I think from the logic area of my brain. So that's logic and patterns is if you're stuck in that, you get bored of always doing the same way and you want to go outside of the box now and then. So it's a little bit both, I think.
What's the most popular community tool in XrmToolBox for the Power Platform in Dynamics 365?
I'm a Swedish guy, so I cannot brag to say that, I love my old things, but that's that's boring. I can't do that. Things I like the most, I would say the view layout replicator. That's the first one I use. That's one I'm always, not always, but I'm still using it and so on. That one, metadata browser, of course, early bound generator. And that's kind of crazy hearing me say that because I say I like it late bound. But we had to start working early bound. When I was off from work for like 1 or 2 years, I came back and then Benedict has taken over the sort of leading the development and the solution component mover, that is as well, and plugin registration. I cannot say just what's number one.
The intention of this question was to hear FetchXML, and I'm going to pronounce it for you. I'm going to say FetchXML is one of the most popular community tools.
I don't brag.
Yeah, I'll do it for you. I'll brag for you. So, standing in the stage or sit in the hall and watch.
You have to move back a bit. But since I have a few issues with speaking and actually listening to really understand what to say, since I have a small aphasia, it means that, well, I can speak good enough. It's harder to listen. Or just do a break now. I'm going to do it again. I need to cut.
Take your time. No worries here. No way I'm going live. You know, going live is either for rookies or for professionals. Amateurs should do everything in recording.
Är du färdig, Simon? Är du färdig? Ja, vi har tagit paus här efter nu, så lite för det. I'm going back. Okay, I have to go back a bit and say that since I have a small issues with my language, both for speaking and for listening, and listening is harder when I have the aphasia. I'd love to be standing on the stage, me talking about what I know, and sitting there and just listening. It's really hard, much harder than speaking myself. So I would love to be on the stage, and I also like to share what I know and so on.
Walk or drive a car?
Well, in my soul, I would say, of course, I'm walking. I'm walking and doing with a bicycle and so on. Running around with a car, that's just, I mean, we're killing the world and so on. But now today, well, I'm also worse at walking. So now that I actually can drive a car again, I have to say that I love my car. It will end someday, but currently I'm loving the car.
That was a good introduction, covering the key aspects, I think, of what we know about your professional
life. So now everyone knows who I am, right?
Almost, yeah, I guess so. So let's switch gears and talk two things. XrmToolBox, it's actually the thing you didn't want to brag about, that two things in XrmToolBox. FetchXML, which was built by you, and we definitely need to touch on FetchXML. And XrmToolBox, what I was going to say, you're the one who is actually moving it, speeding ahead. Every single session, every single conference I go where I see you, you're talking about XrmToolBox, and I know you're promoting it hard. And it's, for some people, they might think it's actually your tool because you're so much upfront. And I'm sure community appreciates your effort, because without XrmToolBox, will not be here. But can you tell me how you discovered XrmToolBox and how you decided to build your first tool?
The reason why I created a tool for XrmToolBox is because even then, back in 2014, I think, then it was, you got a lot for free, like connecting to the dynamic CRM we said back then. So it could handle all of that for us, and we could just focus on the actual features that you should create. So that's why I loved that XrmToolBox, because it handles all the other stuff that I don't want to do things. So that's why.
And how you decide about FetchXML specifically and some other tools you have?
Well, I started with the FetchXML Builder because I think there was another tool that works for CRM 4.0, and I think it worked also for Dynamics CRM, the 11. Stunware.
Ah, Stunware tools.
Oh, well, I had to look it up.
Yeah, I remember.
When Dynamics CRM 2013 came out, they had deprecated the older type of the SDK, so it doesn't work anymore. It had a few different features in that actually toolbox that also, and the creating the queries was the one I really was missing when it couldn't work anymore. So that's why I was starting to do it from very small and see what I could do, and actually used the sort of the layout from one tool of Tanguy. I think it was for the sitemap editor, and I got the same thing with the tree view and then the details to the side. So well, that's why I started there.
I have a story about FetchXML. So first of all, I need to say, as many people who long enough in the industry, I was one of the people who actually learned FetchXML using your tool. So you understand the syntax, you understand everything, but when you start playing with FetchXML, you actually start learning stuff. You get the responses, you see some additional parameters you didn't expect, and now things start clicking. Cannot say for everyone, but for me, and I'm sure many others, you have actually opened up FetchXML books for everyone with your tool. Otherwise, just some very technical people would use it because it's quite cumbersome. It's still XML, quite cumbersome. But FetchXML, effectively, I think anyone can use it now. So a story I had, I remember I think it was around 2011, 2013, the times you're talking about. And I was to a training, I was in my corporate days, and there was a guy who was leading the training. In between, in those intervals between sessions, we hooked up with him and he talked to me, look, I have a business idea. I'm sure it will fly very well. I'm going to create a tool which will run with that FetchXML and do some magic about it. Will simplify the use of FetchXML. And I'm going to make business on it. And I told, wait a moment, have you checked XrmToolBox? He told, what toolbox? I'm saying just XrmToolBox, there is a FetchXML tool. And you could see he probably in that interval, he checked it. And for the rest of session, he was not in the mood at all. So he was planning to make a business, creating a FetchXML tool and start selling it. But you obviously created a way simpler, way different.
It might be stupid that I don't take money for it.
It's too late. Yeah, I think it's too late.
I like to share.
With FetchXML, it tells me not everyone knows about XrmToolBox. So that guy, he was a trainer in a well-known training company doing just dynamics, all day long. And still somehow he wasn't aware of XrmToolBox. And that was 2013. So XrmToolBox existed for a couple of years for sure. I'm quite confident not everyone aware of XrmToolBox, especially new breed of developers, citizen developers. What do you think the benefits of XrmToolBox and what kind of stuff they can get and how to use it in a simple way?
Why is it good to use that toolbox? Well, it can't answer to that because it's got all levels of what the features or what the tools can do. So maybe it's from the users, normal users of Dynamics or any Power Platform. You can use a few of those tools or a gazillion of tools which helps you. And also for the admin people, for the super users, and also for the developers and for the consults, we who are working with it. So it can't answer that.
If you're citizen developer and you're just starting, how do you think people should look for best tool for them? Do they need to use search bar, read through all description? Because now they have hundreds of tools. So how do you suggest to navigate and choose one for yourself?
Well, we can start with there are different categories for the tools. So we can add one or more categories for the tools that you are developing. So if you want to work with data, then you can get that category and you see FetchXML Builder and a few other tools for that. And then you can also look at tool library to see how you can rate this tool. And a lot of tools, they are 5.0 in their rate, but they got only 2 votes, which was the developer and her mom. So there are others that if they have 30 people who have said what they think about it, then we can really believe that. And also look for the documentation. And that's actually the developers of these tools, they're like me, who are techie guys sitting in a corner writing to be developing things. We don't like to document things. That's just boring time that when we need to...
Yeah, documenting is for losers, right? Not for winners.
Yeah, but we need it also as well because if you want users for your tool, well, we have to explain here and there how to use it and what we actually can use with the tools. And when tools are developed over years and years, they get more and more features. How to find those?
People who run XrmToolBox, do you cherry pick? Do you have a filtering criteria? Like an app source, they have preferred solution. Do you have anything where you can put a mark, you as people who found it or people who are running it? Do you have anything as additional criteria for end users to understand what to use and what's recommended?
Do you mean for these tools within XrmToolBox? If you can just get a stamp that says it is a good one. I'm wishing for it because there are a bit over 300 tools out there. Not all are the best.
When I'm talking to young customers, to our clients, I'm telling them, hey, go and use XrmToolBox. But bear in mind a disclaimer that do not use on production, which makes it not useful because majority of time they want to do something in production because in DevBox, they don't care, Some of those XrmToolBox, you can go and check the source code as a developer, but others, you can see source code wasn't amended for years or was abandoned. Yeah, it works and it has a lot of stars, but it's not that mature or not that well versed. For example, your FetchXML, everything there is teaching the book. You feel very comfortable. It's probably one of the very few tools I can recommend people to use. Go in production. It's quite safe, but disclaimer is still there. So do you have options and opportunities to validate, or you have no time? It's unlikely to be. Just to see and just go from backend and say, hey, this thing is mature. This thing is robust.
I don't have one answer how to do that, so I don't have a good. But also, I mean, you could sort of look at the history for a tool and see it's been updated every 3 months or so, or it's been last update was like 5 years ago. Well, then it's dead. It works the way it works. The bugs won't be fixed, or the new features will never go in there. So yeah, I think it's good if you find a tool with the developer behind it is active. And how to find it? Well, you can actually see in XrmToolBox, when you look at this in the tool library, you can see how many versions there are. There's like a Dropbox where you can see how many versions are there. If there is like 2 versions and it was 1.1982. No, well, it isn't. But anyway, then you see it's dead.
So if I can summarize for our listeners, that's what we're saying. Look at stars. You need to look at categories. You need to look at number of versions. You need to look at when it was last time edited. And documentation, obviously, it's, there is no point of telling people to go and check documentation. No one does it, never did it. Everyone's trying to hack it first. But I'll mention, go on the documentation. So we have 5 points how you can go and check. And what Jonas saying, XrmToolBox team thinking how to add some suggestions or thumbs up from key people.
One more thing, actually. You can go to the product website or something like that. There's a link for the tools inside XrmToolBox. If you go to some GitHub URL and just see the code, or if you actually go to a website like XrmToolBox.com or FetchXMLBuilder.com, something like that, then it's a good one, or they're working on this.
Okay, so we have 6 rules how you can navigate and start using XrmToolBox. I like how people say that XrmToolBox was the first citizen development platform actually for Power Platform. I'm impressed Microsoft didn't try to embrace and pull it back into their environment, but I think they're happy having so many people like you who keep investing their time. I know you have another tool released this year, Shuffle Runner, Shuffle Builder, Shuffle Deployer. It's a new feature. Tell us more about it.
That should be a separate episode of this. But actually, well, it was like 10 years ago or so when we were delivering big projects. So we needed to have more control on how to deliver properly. It was available from Microsoft, and there were from a few other from the community out there. But so we started it from scratch instead. From the first week, it could like export and import data instead of just using export to Excel, edit the information, and then import it again. So it could do it in a more proper way, and to do it a lot more advanced on which data to select to export and how to import it. Should we update it, or should it just delete the records that are already in there, or if they are already in there, don't touch it, and so on. But a lot more of that. And then it moved on a bit to also be able to import solutions and export solutions as well, which means we went further with this and started some tools in Azure pipelines. So we used it there before Microsoft had delivered that. So it wasn't anything else to use. So then, and a few years later, we started to create a tool for the XrmToolBox for it instead. And now recently, so like me and an ex-colleague that were working at this company where we created all of these shuffle tools, and we got these tools from that company. So now it's from us as 2 individuals who are releasing it now, and we don't take money, and it's open source, the code behind and so on. So I think that was a great way to continue to update and improve these tools. Because before it was at my old company, then no one really did know the code behind, but they use it every day. So now it's more easier to update and to improve it.
How do you see the future of open source? Because there is now a huge debate. Will it survive? So your generation, I guess my generation, we were building for open source, but younger generations, they're not so keen. There are a lot of benefits. There is a flip side. No one is making money on open source. I mean, everyone else is making, probably reusing building it, but people who build don't make money. So how do you see the future of open source?
I tried sometime many years ago, that I should actually take money for some tool or whatever it was. Then I didn't sell even one, because I mean, if the cost is really small, but then you get a huge more of responsibility and so on. So if we love to create things. I think it's fun to create tools. I can sit there tonight when my wife is knitting in front of the TV. I'm sitting here, and just because it's fun and I got an idea, and so I want to do it, and I cannot just stop doing that because I don't get money for it.
So it's art at the end of the day.
Art and creation, that's what you want to do it. There's a lot of brain in this area, but you don't need from heart, actually, because you do when you like to do things and to create tools like this.
You remind me with open source and the struggle to sell. If you ever watched the Netflix movie about Spotify, about that Swedish guy who created the Spotify, and how he had his toolkit and everyone was fighting until he found an investor. I don't know how true to life the story is, but it actually makes perfect sense to be a developer and have that passion. But you need to have a businessman or somebody who has no passion for code, but has passion for money. And that's probably how it flies. And actually, with switching into Sweden, many people who will watch it, they've never been to Sweden. And to my shame, I have never been to Sweden too. I need to go there. It's one on my bucket. Yeah, it just happened to be so. You mentioned you lived all your life in Stockholm or close to that place. Can you maybe tell for outsiders what you like about your country? We don't need to do a tourist tour. People can go to YouTube and watch all the videos. But you as a native, how do you feel about Sweden? What's unique for you?
Actually, since I had some issues 2 years ago and got a stroke, I'm still only working for like 50%. But this government or whatever, the one up there, they are making sure I'm having a good life anyway. Because I get my money when I'm sick. So that's good, but that's a quite boring topic as well. But now what I would like also, the nature, we still have some nature outside. We don't only have buildings. It's like when you're looking at the Google Maps, look into like Netherlands, for example. There are like one city and another city, and they're sort of like, it's actually one big city. And in US it was US they have some areas that are just dead, like desert. But yeah, we have more space here. So if you compare with the Netherlands, we have like the same number of people here, but our country is, I don't know the numbers, but 5 or 10 times bigger. So we use the space.
I think it's just the sense of freedom. Probably one of those countries where people probably can feel it. Even the COVID years, you've been one of those who were more careful in terms of lockdowns and everything else.
Being a neutral company, and well, that was before. Now we're in NATO.
Yeah. Since yesterday. Yeah.
Let's not go there.
Yeah, I know, I'm joking. Yeah. You like the weather. You're saying the social care works well, but maybe more on personal level. In terms of families, friends, do you see some uniqueness in Sweden?
I don't really know about those, but another thing that's really strange for me is, as I said, I've always been living here a bit north of Stockholm, like 20 kilometers north of Stockholm. And I've moved to like 15 different places. And I've moved from Åkersberga, where I was grown up. And when I was 35 years old, I moved a long way to Täby, which is like 10 kilometers from there, and moving into a few places here. So I'm staying at the same place. Like other people's, like your colleague Steve, he was in Florida and now is in Brazil. And what's the strange about that? Now I thought, this is a crazy move you've done. So yeah, well, for me, and you've also moved to England from
Moldova. Mm-hmm.
And we like it right here, probably. So the country is good, since if we hate this place, we wouldn't move from here.
And for you, it's even better. You like the place with a radius of 10 kilometers.
My grandmother, and well, the great-grand, they have been living here in Stockholm area. And they moved here, I think, both from my mom's side and from my dad's side. Well, way back, they moved long from up to Stockholm from like a bit lower in Sweden, a bit south. So it's not a big thing. So we are here.
So they've been adventurous and you're less adventurous, I would say, right? So they moved more than 10 miles, 10 kilometers away from the place.
But I mean, on vacation, I like to go running out with my boat. It's like 10 kilometers there and there's my boat. And when on the winter, I like to go skiing. Well, then I might go 1,000 kilometers north. That's a really long trip to go up there and go skiing.
It feels, what you're telling me, feels very cozy. So everything, like every single angle. When you spend a life on a 10 miles radius, you probably know every single person.
Okay, I need to move somewhere else. Now I've seen this,
Yeah, sure.
this place too much. Okay, I will move somewhere. Have a chat with my wife.
So look, I have some stats here, and I want to talk about, you mentioned a few times that you had a stroke. They say annually 15 million people worldwide suffer a stroke. And I know you got your stroke at February 2021. And I think everyone appreciates that you're so open that you can talk about it, because we all work in IT. We all use brains to maybe slightly advanced level than probably you should. And if you have a stroke, it's pretty much your main tool is affected. So how did it change your life, if you can share?
From a general thing, how it changed? Well, now I'm more angry because I'm angry at my body that doesn't really work the way it should. And actually, I mean, at work, and I like doing what we're doing right now, talking to each other, then my aphasia is harder. Because, I mean, during my stroke, I got it here in the left side, and it hit most in the center for the languages. So I lost everything. Like the first weeks, I was just speaking not any language. Well, I was speaking, but not properly language. And so then actually I had to work around this center in the brain. I have no idea how we do, but apparently, well, there are a lot of people, I mean, the pros here, the doctors and so on, saying that it's, I mean, improving so well with my speaking and also my listening. But I think it's just, I like to talk. Why should I be just shut up? I can't do that. And I've met other people who have had the same problem as I. They just go silent because they are trying like 5 times and it doesn't work. I don't get out the words the way you want to, then you give up. So that's very sad to see, but it's also, I know I still have huge problems with the languages, but I just have to keep on listening to you and talking myself as well.
Yeah, I want to make a joke about how good your English is comparing to somebody else.
Or gonna joke, because that's really, I hate that. I like to joke, like the really bad jokes, dad joke, but now it's so much harder for me. And when other people are saying something fun, then I just, okay, can you write it down so I can sort of look at the words you're saying? Because so it's actually really hard to go from just speaking and listening, and when it's just sounds, and when you're doing a joke, doing something that are related to the words, you have to actually understand the words. I mean, you probably have to see how it's written as well. I hate that because I love that, and that's really hard for me.
So you speaking 2 languages, Sweden you pretty much use 2 languages. So how did it affect your English? I mean, it's a second language. So if actually you had to relearn both, or just did it come to you naturally? Did you have to work on languages?
No, I think it's been done. It just both languages just came back, well, are getting slowly back. And actually my wife said that during the first days after my stroke, she heard that now and then she heard a proper word for Swedish or English. I was cursing. That was the most works that really came out the way they should. So I've no idea why, but probably, I mean, like in Sweden, everything from the TV, we have there in English and subtitle in Swedish. So, I mean, I've seen English since I was 3 years old, and also since I'm working in this area, speak English a lot. So maybe it came a bit like automatically.
We as IT people, we're overloaded with information. We have to learn and relearn. So how do you cope with this workload on top of day-to-day conversations and information coming back and forth? You have to learn new stuff, how the life looks like after stroke for an IT person.
I realized like a few weeks after my stroke, then I thought, oh, wait, I got like Visual Studio on my computer. Well, and it took a long time to find out that it's called Visual Studio. Then I found it out, I find it there, and I open a project that I was working in, and I was like, hey, this is easy. I mean, the languages, I mean, since Swedish has a million words and English has like a gazillion words, I was looking at the C Sharp, it has like 77 keywords.
Wow, true.
77 is like nothing compared to a gazillion English words. Maybe that's why, and also that I mean, when we're coding, you are only working. I hope we're like almost only working with our logic brain. We're not doing it for how we're feeling or so on, and it should always be the logic. And the logic is still intact.
Development languages are way simpler than any language. You're not talking about development languages, I'm talking about citizen developers. No, I'll put different way. So being a developer in today's world, where you have so many stuff being taken away, you now have low code, no code, and you're still using. Do you think the future of development will be actually writing C# code, or it will be a mixture of drag and drop like you're playing games today? So how do you see with this motion, will low code, no code coming to the picture? Do you think we'll still be going to use C#, let's say, in 10, 15 years?
I don't know how they're working. I'm currently at Microsoft. But I mean, when we're just looking from the outside, they are working like hell for getting everyone to be able to code within big quotes, to code and just for like drag and drop. So they want to get us to go in that area, in that direction. And I hope when C# or then similar are gone, I hope it's when I'm retired.
So you still assume it actually can be done?
I mean, the languages for development, they are involved now and then. I mean, like C# wasn't here 20 years ago. Now it's here. Now that's the big language for us at least. And so it goes up and down over time.
And I think what we're talking is pretty much AI. Have you tried the Copilot X? Have you tried the features there?
No, I've been watching people who are showing it for us. But
I've tried it just once. It actually feels like ChatGPT within your context. So it's aware of what you're building there and trying to advise you. So I don't know what's your take, but my take, the only thing that really helps, and I could be completely wrong, with documentation, the thing you and I discussed, that's for losers game. You can ask, write me documentation, that will do.
You took my topic. That's just what I was going to say. I may probably eventually use it for document my code. Currently, not at all at this time. We'll see in the future. Probably I'm retired. But I think it's also another question is, when does it really become to be called AI when it's just code? I mean, we're developing, we do logic, we create logic. And when does the logic become AI? How smart does your logic have to be called AI?
Oh, you mean the AI itself being a piece of code, or you mean AI building code?
I'm thinking about how you create the AI features. And we know it's logic. There's a lot of if and else. Or, I mean, it doesn't become a Skynet and then it's just working on itself over there and we don't know what's happening. But, I mean, it's just how much resource you need to it and how much data you have to have sort of behind it in your history, in the AI features and so on. So there are some different limits.
There is an article recently published, I think it's actually for OpenAI, and they shown ChatGPT-4 level of automation, how much it matching the different domains. For example, they passed the bar test, that legal bar test in US, and it was 87% if I'm not wrong. So it goes there from school, legal reviews, medical advice, percentage. So how much it matching humans. And code development, I could be wrong, but it's less than 10%. It's single digits. It feels like generative AI is good for people who deal with words and with texts. And obviously legals do that. I don't know, your homework could be math, probably not so much. But when you're building code, it looks like a text, but actually it has a lot of logic and a lot of thinking, a lot of algorithm to be built. It's not just spitting out words.
And it's like I don't know what we call these names, but the AIs that are looking at words, they don't have any idea what the words means. But you have added some attributes to this word that, well, when you say cereal, well, it has something to do with breakfast and it has something to do with milk, but it doesn't know what it means. So I tried you use this chat to create a plugin. Then you can say just do it again, and you get it back in a few different ways of how you write the code, which means, okay, maybe it could be good to use this to sort of get the template for, and then we continue with a plugin. Well, in that case, go to one of my sessions when I say how to create a base class for plugins. That makes more than the AI does. It's funny to look at, but actually it's good to look at it and see it sucks. I'm good. That sucks.
I think it's not bad in terms of writing bad jokes or dead jokes. It can write dead jokes, but can it write code? I'm also in doubt. It probably can. I remember who was saying, I think Satya Nadella, in one of the interviews, he told Tesla AI Vision, the guy who is leading that thing, he told 70% of code written by AI in their domain. And it's not because they're lazy or they're trying to avoid this. They're just building way more code now with AI help. So they maybe found a use case. I think the key challenge for everyone who is aware of AI, what's the use case? And everyone finds its own use case. So I mentioned I like to write jokes. I like to proofread my English letters or whatever I write there. So this is my use case. I'm not using it for code at this moment, but you never know. What's your gut feeling? I mean, your personal opinion. Do you think AI will replace developers?
I like for us to create. I like to be a creator. I don't just want to be fix this tool for me and talk to like a robot and he will do it for me. I like to create. What I create is not used by anyone, or they're not say that, oh, that's a good thing you created. Well, then I should really be retired. I have no answer. And actually, when we're talking about AI, and I say, meh, I feel crazy old. I'm like a old guy sitting and saying, no, like it. Okay, I am old in that case.
I also, to be honest, I'm talking to you, I'm thinking, God, probably in 3 weeks' time or 3 months, you and I will regret it. Maybe GPT-5 comes about and replace everything, because things are changing so fast. We need to make like a disclaimer. Whatever Jonas and I said can be not true in 3 months, and we can change opinions.
No, I will never change.
Another thing what I wanted to say, maybe coming back to XrmToolBox. Do you see any new toolkit, any tools coming for AI bit? Because I know Microsoft is doing a lot of copilots, but do you expect XrmToolBox will start bringing in some of AI capabilities and some unique scenarios? Do you hear anything happening in this domain?
Actually, I'm not following this topic very much at all. You mean would you like that for XrmToolBox?
You know, you might be in a position where a lot of people have prompts and they use prompts for now maybe with Copilot we'll have clever prompts to ask clever questions to Copilot, not just who's my customer, what's the email address, but maybe more clever ones which provide, and maybe organization-wide, every single person has discovered an interesting prompt, and to have that crowdsourcing for information where you can identify what prompts have been used and what prompts have been useful.
Well, actually, Benedict Bergman, my colleague, he is an AI. He was thinking of creating a tool. Maybe I shouldn't say that because it's secret. It's NDA, of course, but to create a tool that creates unit tests for your code. Well, so can create the test. And that would be great to have, because I never create tests the way I really should.
I remember when I was talking to Scott Duro and taking an interview from him, I was trying to learn what kind of tools he uses on a daily basis. If you open your laptop, what kind of things you have? So I'm sure you have Visual Studio. What other tools do you use for your daily development?
Actually, still Outlook is going out slowly. It's a lot to just make.powerapps.com. And there's, of course, XrmToolBox is probably always, there's a lot of that is available in Visual Studio. That and also Visual Studio Code. Those are on a lot here. So those I'm using for it.
And what do you use? Do you use any tools for mapping your thoughts out? I don't know, a board, a PowerPoint, whatever. Do you use it for your own personal use on a daily basis, not for a conference?
When I just have ideas, get my phone and writing down just a post-it in there. And then someday it may become to an issue or to an issue in GitHub if it's my private stuff, or, well, the Azure DevOps. Since I have language issues, it's hard to write it down also. So, I mean, earlier maybe I wrote down more. Today I just keep it up there. And I forget a lot of the.
Whatever is useless, you just throw it away. What the tools you would suggest people to use for developers? Let's say we have a developer starting with Dynamics, and he just finished, he did his certification, and he's found his first job placement. Maybe it's the other way around. Usually you probably find job placement, then you get certified. But anyway, so what would you suggest to start as a first tool setup? How to start building stuff for Dynamics?
Actually, I don't really like those who just got their education and got a job and are working there. You shouldn't start from that area. I think because it's really good for you to know how it works I'm pointing under my desk. Because if you know how the database is working and how you do a good data model and so on, I think you just need to start from that and actually learn the types of the fields and so on, so you know how they work, not just starting from on that level. I mean, I think the most who are working currently in Power Platform, they start from that high level at least. It's better if you start from the ground.
So it's better for developers who just beginning is to go for general .NET, I don't know, building websites, building some .NET apps before they jump into Dynamics, which is a high level. The thing about Dynamics, what I like, you always have the most contemporary technology. You know, when the JSON came about, it was instantly incorporated. Then when Facebook came with React, they also had the instantly incorporated into Dynamics. I think it's 6 months or 9 months after it came about. So what I usually pitch for developers is saying, yeah, whatever you're working with, if it's new and fresh and it's going to stay, Dynamics will going to use it as a piece of technology. But you're right, if you don't understand the back end of the system and you were trying to create a couple of plugins, a couple of maybe some logic apps, you don't see the full picture at the end of the day. So it's effectively saying people need to go and learn assembly again, go and do assembly code.
Yeah, I think that's the best, to actually know how the computer works. Now, or maybe that's too deep. But if you got the education for the Power Platform and so on, I think you should, to start, we need to have an environment where you can just play around and sort of not just a for free environment, but an environment that actually have some features in there that you can test on and so on. Because actually, I've never learned things from education. I learned from trying, failing, and then at the end, probably success. Since it's moving all the time of how the Power Platform is working, everything changing. And it's like, for me, yesterday at the office, me and a colleague were there and was going to do something in that make.powerapps.com. Okay, I've been working in this area for like 14 years. I needed to look how do I find how to do these things, because they have recently changes, or 5 years ago or so, since I'm not working with just that area for many years. Things are changing there a lot, so make sure that you feel the area of that feature.
It's almost kind of tactile feeling. You need to have it at your fingertips. I agree. It's not as embarrassing as talking to a customer and a customer knows about Make experience more than you, because he spent in an area you never went to. So I know the feeling. So it's definitely worth saying. I saw your picture from Cyprus. At the back side of your laptop was full of stickers. XrmToolBox, MVP. I saw Andrew Butenko. I see Nordic Summit stuff. So are you going to be a speaker or visitor there? And can you tell maybe more about the conference and why you have so many stickers?
Well, at the Nordic Summit, I am from the Nordic Summit, or the Nordic countries. I'm working for the organization during this event. So I'm not speaking there. I will be there anyway. And I hopefully think the next conference I'm going to is the Nordic Summit, I think it's called, the DCI in Charlotte, middle of October. I'm hoping to get there, but that's the next one where I'm speaking there as well. And all the stickers, very nerds. Well, someone just started to put on a sticker, and then, well, that's fun to have it there. And actually, for what is like 6 years ago, I got a sticker that's where it's a blue one that's in the corner of my computer where it says I'm an MVP. That's kind of fun to have there on my computer. Well, they're getting more and more of them there. Now and then, you just drop off and you put on something else.
How to connect, how people can get in touch with you, what channels do you follow, where do you respond, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
You know my name? You put a dot between R and at. So jonasr.app, that's my website. And there you can find my Twitter at Rappen, R-A-P-P-E-N, and probably this same sort of tag on GitHub, on LinkedIn, and so on. You find me everywhere.
Yeah, which channel do you follow? Where the people, if they write you, they actually can expect you to reply?
No. No, actually, I'm trying to answer everywhere. So I mean, GitHub, Twitter, LinkedIn, email. Don't call me though.
I think the best, you don't call, yeah. I think the best thing if they want to talk to you is to go to some conference where you're speaking, because I can tell you, Jonas is a very approachable person. It's fun to talk and have a conversation. So if you have a question, if you want some advice, and Jonas one of, I think, experts, and if somebody has a technical question or technical challenge, and it's advanced challenge, and you think it's a around area where Jonas can help, you should definitely go, and I'm sure Jonas will give you not just an advice, but also with a joke. Blitz, FetchXML or SQL?
SQL, FetchXML is just some weird thing, weird language they created for the dynamic CRM. Why is that?
Yeah, and there is a person who created an app based on FetchXML. Do you know that one? FetchXML tool.
Well, only because I don't know FetchXML, so I need a tool for it.
So XrmToolBox or Sparkle XRM?
Both.
Personal blog or podcast?
So my blog, my blog, it's only me doing it. I can write whatever I want to, what I'm interested in, and so on. And I have forever to be done with the post there. So yeah, it's my blog.
Low code or pro code?
Code first. It's called Code First now, currently from Microsoft. I would say that, but code first. I'm not this simple people who are just know the low code.
TikTok or LinkedIn?
Ticket awarded?
Yeah.
I said like the Snapchat, what it was called.
Yeah, like Snapchat.
I'm like more than 50 years old. I don't do TikTok.
You and I, we have so many similarities. It's actually embarrassing. I'm not TikTok. I just installed it once and just what are the things we're not talking about, but we need to talk about in community?
Yeah, that's really hard. There's a lot I like to talk there. I want to talk about a lot of things. What I think we should talk about is don't just create apps just because you can. Think about it before instead.
That's a good point. I really appreciate your time, Jonas, and your effort. And I have so many other questions to ask, so we'll probably have series 2 at some point.
Okay. Are you going to Copenhagen in September? We can see you there.
I should have been in the US for September, October, and I canceled a lot of events. And though that we can probably do series 2, episode 2 of this conversation, maybe face to face. I really appreciate your time, and I think it was insightful to see, even after half your stroke you had, you're so much back into shape. And it's a promising thing for all of us, because we all use our brains, and it can happen to anyone at some point. And I know it's a huge deal. And thank you for your XrmToolBox stuff going on. Everyone would appreciate it. And just let's keep connected. And everyone, if you have any questions for Jonas, just keep it down below.
No worries. It's good that you have fun with my tools, but just donate. Just click somewhere down here.
Yeah, that's another thing for sure. Yeah, just go and donate. Every time you download XrmToolBox, there is a donate button at all.
Yeah, but it's easier to find to donate to the XrmToolBox and not to the actual tool. That's different.
Yeah, so please donate in both places. That's what we want to say. Go and donate if you're using for every single FetchXML. If you're using donate $1, and I'm sure Jonas will retire as a millionaire for every single time they use. Nice talking to you, and we'll be in touch. Talk to you next time.